Yes, good evening, everyone, once again. My name is Ikenna, and I'll be your speaker for today, talking to you specifically on the world of business analysis. But before we start up, just a little bit of some kind of checkup just to make sure that everything is all right. So I also want to be clear that you can hear me properly. If you have any issues getting to hear me, maybe like the kind of feedback, the background or something, just let me know at this point, because usually I'll have issues with this headphone I'm using. And but if there's none, then I then proceed as it is. Can't see anybody on video today, so uh, that's okay, that's fine. We'll all stay behind the camera today. And my name is Ikenna. So before we start, a little bit of introduction. I'd like to kind of introduce myself, but preliminarily, I just want to also mention that I wouldn't want this to just be like a one-man show. That's just me speaking, right? So I want us to be able to engage. I want us to be able to interact. All right, throughout the section, it's going to last for the period of 2 hours. So it's going to be like an interactive session for us to talk through all this. Getting to learn more about business analysis, as a discipline. And then but before I start introducing myself, I want to a little bit of shake the room up a little, and then see how, if anybody potentially, or any persons, maybe about 1, 2, 3 persons can potentially unmute themselves, and then maybe like kind of introduction, talk to us about yourself. You just need maybe like 1, 2, 3 people. So if you're interested to do that, you can signify by raising your hands, and I'm going to unmute you. Then just, a little bit of intro of who you are, what you're doing, and, what stage are you really in terms of, business analysis, how new or how much your number of business analysis, then we can kick it off from there. Do you have anybody that wants to go? All right. Do you have anybody that wants to go? Do you want me to punch names? All right, all right, so Gania wants to have you go. All right, Gania, please unmute yourself. And
hello, good day, everyone.
Good day. Good day, Gania.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, you can hear you perfectly.
Good day, everyone.
Good day.
Actually, I am Gania Tadiva. I'm very, very new to business analyst. I've been a customer care officer for a while, for like 20 years.
Okay.
More than 20 years. So I got interested in tech. And I was, what type of tech can I do that would not really give me a headache? So okay. I was introduced to business analyst, yes. I said I'm new to business. I'm new to tech.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I think business analysis is a bit easier. That was my thinking anyway. So I did a training for a few months. And actually that was I got to this webinar because I was like, okay, this is really for me. So let me see what happens. How does it go? I was actually interested in I did a work experience actually. So okay. I had little knowledge of how it works. But in real life, so I've been looking for how does it go? Who can really work? Yes, how does it really work?
Okay.
So I'm actually I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Great to hear from you, Ghanaian. Great to hear from you. Yes, as towards your expectations for today, yes, will be definitely a little bit of essentially what business analysis is all about. Then later down the line, as part of what we intend to cover, it also to walk through, what the project life cycle, what the typical business analysis, service delivery look like across a project life cycle. So it's part of things that we intend to cover today. So thanks a lot for that. So do we have someone else? Maybe one more person before we move on then. So typically as business analysts, okay, when you come into a room, okay, we've got our own, individual characteristics and, of course, a charisma. So a business analyst will always be a very key influencer, every room that they find themselves. So part of the things part of the skills that we get to also learn, is, how we, influence people, how we influence the projects, and how we take charge, of things that are happening. So if we are building ourselves towards, starting off a career in business analysis, it's just like an opportunity for you to, just come out of the open, talk to us, maybe one or two sentences, and then you can move on. Anybody want to jump on that, or do we just fire down? We've got loads of things to cover today. All right, so I assume that nobody else wants to go through. I'll at this point, right, before I make introductions, show us a little bit of what we intend to cover today, right? Just to build us a bit of a background and set some expectations, right? So today, initially, the first point we'll look at, essentially the basics. What is business and what is it really all about? Just to make sure that we cover a wide range of audience. And then what does the BA do? And then, of course, what sort of value do we really deliver? To BA find themselves. And then we'll also look at the common misconceptions about business analysis, the word of business analysis. There are loads and loads of misconceptions about what you do as a discipline. And then the very extensive one is we're going to work through, a project, more or less like a project life cycle. And, we discuss through the very key activities that a BA will do across, the project life cycle with some examples of some of those works and artifacts that we produce. And then just to also build up, because, considering the fact that most of us are also looking out for opportunities, most of us are also trying to have that kind of background understanding of what the external environment looks like for business analysis. We're also going to look at some infographics from IIPA, International Institute of Business Analysis. And then we'll also further on down to, of course, getting to understand what are these skill sets for a BA and how do we really develop them. Then finally, we left the last one, the juicy part for, final tips, now that you've learned all this, now that you've done some things that you've suggested, how do you really find the job? How do you get a job, as a business analyst? And then we wrap the session with an interactive session, more or less like a question and answer. So, but before that, at intervals, we will entertain questions. If you have questions, right? As much as we really don't want to, we're also cautious of our time and also trying to get as much as we can. You can, drop them down in the chat, or okay, and whenever I ask, you can always raise your hands. So as a matter of introduction, right? I'm a business analyst. My first degree was in accountancy back in Nigeria, and I did practice accountancy at a very professional level, for a couple of years, about eight years. And then, but I kind of had flair for project management. I had flair for, getting myself really involved in change delivery. And then I just started moving to that world of, project management. And that was how I started, picking up the trades and, started thinking critically on what's potentially going to be my next step. And I found business analysis as the place where I need to be. And in the course of my career, I've kind of been opportune and quite fortunate to work in, multiple sectors, industries, even back home in Nigeria. So when I say back home in Nigeria, I know some of us are, in terms of our demographics, some of us are in Nigeria, some of us are in many places around the world. So I'm currently based in the UK. So back in Nigeria, I started out my career, of course, I'm in oil and gas sector, and from accountants, like I said, moved on to head of finance administration for the organization, and then onward to that level of the general manager before I moved over to the UK. And of course, for those of us that are in UK, when you come to the UK, of course, will gladly humble you. So I got humbled for a couple of years in UK, trying to trying to do some jobs, trying to do some menial jobs, warehouse and stores and all that before I was able to, do a lot of things at the same time and then, transition smoothly into business analysis. So my experience in business analysis, has kind of been quite extensive. And most of the things that we're going to go through today, right, is still part of the things I've done as an individual. So I will just be talking to you guys theoretically or maybe hearsay, but I'll be speaking out of experience what I've done, and then hoping that we're able to pick out one or two things that we'll also find quite valuable. And then so I went through some of my trainings, of course, and then also ran through certification for IBA as well as BCS certifications. And then I've worked in a state education. I worked in as an IT improvement analyst. Offering those business analysis service delivery as well for the best university in the world. I don't know. I'm sure most of you know the university. I don't want to call the name. And then I then moved on to working for one of the top 4 HA companies here in the UK, where I am now. Of course, working as a business analyst. I've been largely involved in small, medium, and very large, project delivery. So I currently work as a change delivery and of course as a transformation consultant within that framework of what we do. So yeah, a little bit away from that. So like I said, we're going to be delving down into that. So that's a little bit about me, what I've done, and yeah. So hopefully I'll be coming from my experience. I wouldn't say it's a wealth of experience because of course it's quite very comprehensive. We won't attempt to cover everything that a business analyst does today. We won't attempt to do that, but then we'll be able to talk through some key things that you might want to know and key things that you also might want to check across. All right, so let's kick off. I'm going to start with the preliminaries, right? Of course, most of us here already knows, what business analysis is all about, or maybe what a BA does in some extent, right? So, but just to make sure that I cover the wide range of our audience, all right? So, what essentially is business analysis? What's business analysis all about? So business analysis is a framework, is a discipline, is an art, really, that is largely involved in driving change in an organization by the way of identifying, specific business needs, understanding the nature of the needs, and then being able to turn problems into, opportunities, into areas of improvement. So essentially, you are the center of having that keen eye or that eagle eye to drive positive change to your organization. So that's just like kind of central role. So that's the kind of central role that a BA does. So forget about the whole test. I know there are loads and loads of textbook descriptions about that, but that's essentially what you do as a business analyst. So you are occupying that position, right, to drive positive change, and also to be able to solve problems. You are not down the line. We're going to be talking about, of course, what a BA does and misconceptions about the BA. So I would want to preempt, but what to mention that even as you're driving solutions and all that, you are not jack of all trades. So there are many areas that we work as business analysts. I've worked, like I said before, I've worked, in the state education as well. I've also worked in insurance as well. And then I have also, we're currently working in a housing association. But then in terms of, core organizational functions, right? So business analysis can be performed, across multiple business units like the customer experience, customer service, business processes, strategic planning, IT systems, as well as, driving organizational change like I did explain before. And of course, like I mentioned before, our role as business analysts, it stretches from, strategic analysis that happens during conception phase of a project or initiatives, and down to transition to BAU. And yeah, like I said, we're going to be going through, kind of the very key stage gates or key activities of the traditional project, what it looks like, and then what we also do as BAs, and a couple of documentations and outputs that we also produce. Right. So so what is it really all about? I think I've been able to capture this in one way or other, but really, what is business analysis really all about? So a BA typically will ask loads and loads of questions, right? So one of our key roles, as business analysts is that we ask questions. In some of my meetings several times, I've always introduced myself, as a person that asks silly questions. They might be silly in a sense, but then they are for a reason, they're for a purpose. So what we essentially do, most of the things that we do, is asking questions to really understand, for example, current situations, problems are, asking questions to understand maybe some critical business processes, or we're asking questions to understand, why, or maybe to challenge, some status quo, or to challenge some things that are going on in the organization. So most of our job is being done by asking questions. So if you don't learn anything out of what you're doing today, one thing you need to go away with is learn how to be curious. So because that's one of the core skill set that you need as a BA, how to be curious, how to be critical, how to critically look at things, how to be analytical in your thought process. So our BA service delivery, of course, we go through the process of asking questions, like I said before, what happens now, what's got to change, what has got to change, and all that, considering where you are, it may be like an existing situation, you asking those questions as a BA, and there are some key artifacts and documentations that comes out of that, which you're going to run through. Right, so our key questions, just to run through this slide. So most of our key questions that we'll ask is, what happens now, what has got to change. So in trying to introduce change, for example, you need to understand, where you are now, what's happening right now, what's the current business situation right now, and then what do you really want to go to, what is the desired state, right? So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about things that you might have heard from one point to the other, maybe like a gap analysis and all that, right? So these are kind of typical questions that we'll kind of ask, and then also are kind of interested in why does this change needs to happen. So one of the key activities, one of the key things that we do as BA, like I did explain earlier, is getting to make sense of things, really getting to make sense of the reason why things are done. So it's not just about getting things done, or maybe an organization, or maybe like the business unit decides to introduce some sort of new system, or new technology, or new process, right? We are kind of deeply interested in understanding why does it need to happen? Why do we really need to make this change? And then we also want to put into consideration who are going to be impacted by the change, whether customers, whether business rule, regulators, source party, suppliers, and all that. Down the line, you're going to be, share more light on, stakeholder analysis and what we do as BAs, for that. And then we're also quite interested on where are the impacted people, where are the impacted systems, where are they really? Just make sure that we have like a holistic view of what is happening. We also put into consideration everybody that is concerned. We also want to talk about how will this new system be used? What is it exactly going to be solving? So these are kind of things that build that background context of what a BA will do. And then, like I said before, a lot of documentations, a lot of artifacts actually comes out of some of these activities. Right. So we're really trying to build a context of what we do so far, right? In understanding what does the BA really do? What is it all about? I mean, if you are taking your time to if you're taking your time to set up a career, right? If I would want to make some kind of background, research to really understand the level of value. What level of value do I really bring to the team? Do I just really want a job, or do I really want to be in a role where I find work I do quite valuable? Stuff like that. So, and then that's why we're trying to shed more light, build that context, within our site, and so that we understand what we're into or what we have been looking forward to, and then before we now start delving into some of the jobs that we do as business analysts. So I don't know if there is any questions so far from a couple of our discussions, from things that we said so far. I appreciate the fact that, of course, we're just starting. We're trying to build some background into the key things that we need to do, the key things that we need to look out today. All right. So in absence of no question at this stage, right? So let me just continue on. So, like I said earlier, so the business analyst is kind of a very broad role. So it's not just all about analysis, right? Right. We work by getting to identify what issues are, what problems are, like I had mentioned before. And then we've got, of course, a couple of tools and techniques that we deploy. So let me just paint this picture for you, right? So we're like a workman, right? A handyman that's got very large tool sets. And then depending on the context you find yourself, right? Depending on the value or kind of repairs, for example, that you want to go through or you want to do for your customer or whatever, right? You then decide the right tool or the right technique for you to do that. That's essentially how we see ourselves as BAs. So as BAs, right, having that context of what is this, what do we really want to achieve, and then what's the right technique, what's the right tool that we're going to be using to achieve this for our stakeholders, right? So it's not just about you as a person, but about the end users, about the customers, about your direct stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and all that. So like I say, we work at getting to identify and clarify on real business problems. So for large organizations, for example, from medium organization, for small organization, we play a very pivotal, very critical role to understanding, to be directly involved in issues. So if you are the type that runs away from complex issues, for example, or you don't like problem, let me say, that's our normal. Let me say, well, I don't like problem, or I don't. No, it's not for business analysis. So a business analysts are interested in problems, right? We say that we work. If there are no issues, then we're not going to have any job. Let me just put it that way. So you've got to be interested in getting very deep into business issues, business problems, and then with the view of being able to actually produce some sort of recommendations, produce some sort of results as a way of maybe like opportunities, improvements. Yeah. So let's just have that clear, right? So we also are particularly involved in shaping, the vision and the outcome from an idea, up till delivery. So when we talk about shaping the vision, so like as much as I really don't want to delve into the nitty-gritties because there'll be overload of information, we are actively involved in what we call visioning exercise, for example. So for every project, right, you as a business analyst, one of your roles or key roles at the feasibility stage is for you to go through like visioning exercise. So that visioning exercise essentially is being facilitating the right relevant stakeholders to really understand what's the vision for what you're doing. Why are we doing this? What's the bigger picture of this? Are we just doing this because of some symptoms, or are we doing this because we want to take care of some problems? 5 years, 10 years down the line from what we're doing, right? What is this really going to lead to? What is going to result to? Is it going to stand the test of time? So I'm just trying to explain it so that we sort of kind of understand how very key what we do really, what are the things that we do as business analysts. So we get ourselves involved in shaping, the vision and the outcome. So when you hear about outcomes, right, vision, goals, objectives, outcomes, deliverables, they are totally all different. We're not going to delve into that for today. But when you hear about outcome, we're talking about what are the direct benefits. What's the direct benefits of going through an initiative? What are the direct benefits? What are these projects going to deliver, as a direct benefit to the business, to the customers, and to the colleagues at work? So we also ensure that the company is also doing the right thing for the business and, of course, delivering the right outcomes to the customer, like I mentioned earlier. So we are making sense of what we're doing, as a business, as a team of projects, right? We don't just want to do things the way things are done, but we want to. So we are that kind of custodians. We are change managers. We are change agents, and we try by driving positive change. So just trying to explain this to us so that we kind of build a concept of if you are transitioning into business analysis, these are kind of things that you'll be doing, right? So what I'm talking about is just check yourself: is this really what you want to do, or are you really game to doing this? So also as a business analyst, we also want to make sure that like I said, business gets what they need, not just what they want. So business, when you hear me talk about business sponsors are maybe like an individual or group of individuals that are kind of accountable to the delivery of a project. So maybe that they're heading a unit, they're the head of finance, you're trying to deliver a finance system. A typical business sponsor for that kind of projects would be like maybe like the head of finance or the finance director, depends on the structure of the organization. So you want to make sure that these people that you work with as stakeholders, that they get what they actually need, right? They're not just going ahead to get what they want, for example, but they're actually going ahead to make sure that's value for what they want, right? So we also intend to sorry, I don't know if sorry, Ibuku, if anybody raises hands, please let me know. I don't know, I'm not too sure if I can see it from my end. Yeah. So yeah, so that's sort of part of things that we do, right? Then some key vital activities that we do as business analysts is, like I said, identifying and understanding stakeholders and business opportunities. Typically, one of the first key things that you do as a business analyst at every initiative, whether at the start of an initiative, at the beginning of an initiative, is, of course, identifying who your stakeholders are, who are your internal stakeholders and who are your external stakeholders, who are those that are going to be impacted by the project, for example, who are those that have got some significant level of interest or power to influence your project. You want to be able to identify those people, and then you want to be able to understand what their needs are, what their communication needs are. I think down the line, we're also going to kind of discuss a little bit about stakeholder analysis. So let me not delve into that. But then potentially that's part of the things that we do as BAs. Right. So as business analysts as well, so you got to hear keywords like assist process or assist states, assist process, assist states, or to be process or to be state. So when you hear about as is, of course, essentially we're talking about the current situation, existing situation. How are we performing now? How are we operating now? How is that system functioning? Right. So key activities that we do, right, is going through that assist process analysis, current situation analysis, right? That involves key techniques like, let's say, gap analysis, SWOT analysis, PESTEL, and the rest of them. We're not going to delve into that at this point, but I'm just trying to explain to us part of things that we do. Like I said, assist process is current state, existing state of a process, existing state of a system, how it all works. And then, of course, by analyzing that process, we'll make use of some techniques, right? Like I mentioned before, the SWOT, the business process modeling and all that. And then just for you to be able to understand where the gaps are, what the problems are, where we've got missing functions, for example. And then, of course, also where we can actually identify or explore areas for improvement or opportunities. And then we also, do option analysis with key stakeholders. Option analysis, like I will explain later on, is part of the inputs that we have as business analysts when we're developing business case, right? So we also work with sponsors, PM in solidifying, what our business case is all about. So let me just explain what a business case is all about. So a business case is a very robust set of documentation, robust document that in the simplest of terms, essentially means the justification of why we are doing this. What's the justification of doing this project? So that's essentially what a business case really covers. So it's got loads and loads of elements, right in it, right? That tries to justify why we're doing this. And of course, a typical business case will always go through the process of production, reviewing, validation, as well as sign off. So if for example you're asked, or maybe a project has been stood up to go through maybe like a introduction of a customer app, for example, right? And then the team is accountable to some sets of people. Maybe it could be like senior executives, the directors, board of directors, and others. Those people are kind of interested to know if this is going to be a waste of time, waste of resources, and if it's actually going to provide value for money, it's actually going to drive down value for the customer. So all these are being put together into a business case, into business case is presented to them and being signed off. So we as business analysts, we impute, it depends on the context really. So in some context, for example, you as a business analyst is going to build up that business case, that robust business case, send for approval. Or in other contexts as well, you're also going to be kind of a participant in producing that robust documentation, right? So, and we also lead in planning requirements production activity. So we're going to speak about requirements. I'm sure that some of us, of course, when we talk about business analysis or business analysis, what comes into our mind is requirements, right? Yeah, so we're going to talk about that later. So that's one of the core things that we do as business analysts, but that is not all that we do. All right. I'm trying to hide this because I can't find it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the range of business analysis activities, like I explained earlier before. So a business analysis activities ranges from either whether you're doing like maybe strategy analysis, core business analysis, service delivery, or maybe IT system analysis. It's all about being able to drive a successful change. Driving a successful change requires, working through individuals, collaborating, facilitating open discussions across business units, across individuals that are interested or stakeholders that are interested to be able to drive, positive change. And while you're doing this along the line, in the course of that project delivery, what you're doing is that you are producing some sets of documents, and then you also produce some sets of artifact as well to just to show what you're doing. And of course, we've got different skills and different levels of experience. So we've got apprentice BA, for example, we've got junior BAs, we've got the BAs, we've got senior BAs, we've got the lead BAs. Of course, we also have the business analysis managers or consultants. Right. Someone's speaker, sorry, so someone's got their mic still. All right, so I'm gonna attempt to mute us. Right. Okay, thank you. Right. So as a business analyst, right, as business analysis, for example, one of the things that you also need to understand, like I mentioned before, is the context of what you're doing as a BA. So BCS or IBA. So I'll always quote BCS or IBA, but I'm literally a BCS guy, right? So one of the key things that we also need to put into consideration wherever we find ourselves, right, or whatever we are doing as business analysts is what we call going through that POPIT model. So a POPIT model, POPIT, really talks about, of course, the people, the organization, the processes that are involved, right, as well as the information technology as a system, that should then be driving, what we are doing. So we wouldn't want to say that all our jobs that we are doing is just based on, driving change across systems or technologies. No, not just that. That's an aspect of what we do, right? So in doing our service delivery, in carrying out our service delivery, right, we want to be able to make sure that we put into consideration the impact on the people that are involved. It could be our customers, it could be our colleagues, right? It could be a specific stakeholder group. Then, of course, what's the impact on the larger organization, right? For this change that we're trying to drive, how does that really align to our corporate goals? How does that really align to our business goals? And then how does that also create change and improve the ways that we are doing our things in terms of our structure? Then, of course, what are also the impact on processes? So what is process really? So when I started off as business analyst, I used to I had a lot of jargons. When I say jargons, they seem to be like traditional words, but I really didn't know what most of them mean. So I started a little bit of background too from how I started was that I did lots and lots of self-study, before I moved in. So, but I was reading through a lot of books and all that, but I really didn't understand most of this. So one of the things that we're going today is that we'll try so hard to simplify the meaning of things that you'll be hearing. So when you hear processes essentially is talking about how we do things, step-by-step things, step-by-step ways of carrying out an operation. Really, that's what the process is. So we put into consideration those processes, the way we do things when we're trying to drive a change as an organization. And as well as, of course, like I mentioned, the technology that we carry out. So we tend to work by collaborating with a very wide range of stakeholders. Of course, like you can see on the slide, we work with, depends on your context where you're working, really. It really depends on where you're working. So don't think that this is all that you're going to be working with. No. So it depends really on your environment, your organization, and the sort of resource that you have, right? Yeah, and just to ensure that that business change. So the key thing is just to ensure that the business change is delivered, is based on what's our strategy, what's our vision as an organization, what's that overall vision. If, for example, you're working on a customer app project, for example, and then you want to put in a feature that provide customers with the ability to have like a live chat, for example. So it will just be an every now and then feature, a piece of technology. If we as business analysts, we are not able to really, identify, or we are not able to really explain how that relates or how that aligns to overall business goals. So whatever we are doing, okay, is going to be in line with our corporate strategies, in line with the corporate, corporate goals and all that. So you are kind of the custodian. You are the custodian of ensuring change delivery process, that change delivery process and what we are doing in the project, right, is in line with business, the business needs, and of course, the business strategic roadmap. Right. So then, yeah, a little bit down the line, I'll just try to run through because I wouldn't be delving into all this one after the other. So down the line, we've got the some kind of table here. I'm trying to hide this. Just a minute. I'm trying to figure out how to hide this bar because okay, yeah. I'm trying to hide this bar so that I don't see the last stuff is really disturbing me. Okay, yeah. Let me just okay, yeah, it's gone off. Thank you. All right, so from the table that you can see, okay, I try to explain, the different levels of business analysts, right? As well as what they do at that level, the tools that they use at that level, and of course, the outputs. So we've got the senior business analysts that I mentioned to you earlier, right? They're great. And then of course, we've got the fully competent BAs. Then we also got the junior BAs as well too. So for on the extreme left-hand side, of course, as you can see, the senior BAs, most of them, right, they're kind of they're kind of involved largely in driving business, identifying what business problems are, what the scope of projects are, some of the key things that they do really. So, but like I said, these are not all cast on stone, right? So if you could be in an organization, you could find yourself in an organization where you're doing everything, you're doing everything as the only one and only BA that they have, or maybe you're just maybe writing up user stories. That's all you're doing as a PA, and of course you're earning your fat sum of money. So it really depends on the context, but right from my experience as one of the environments I've also worked in the past. So this is how it all looks like in terms of what the grades are, definition of. So for the senior BAs will be involved in definition of business problems. So they always work at that very high strategic level of the business. They work very closely with very key stakeholders, highly key stakeholders, I would say, understand what the problems are, and then also work in developing the processes and of course development of business case like I mentioned before. If you look through, you see that the collaboration tools for each level of the business of business analysts are kind of look similar. So in terms of our collaboration means engagement with people, how we work, how we engage with people, right? We work by facilitating workshops, stand-ups, interviews, research, making use of Microsoft Teams, conference calls, Zoom, and the rest of them, whiteboarding as well too. So these are kind of things that we use to drive our collaboration tools. These are kind of our tools that we use, not techniques. Then for BAs or fully competent BAs, we've got they go through business process modeling, like I mentioned before, the assist and to be process. So assist, of course, like I said, is the current process. Then the to be, of course, will be the desired state to the future state, right? So these fully competent BAs work in that sphere as well. They also go through, of course, a requirements analysis and documentations, and then they also do data modeling and data modeling and data mapping as well too. Yeah. So these are kind of things that they do. We don't want to take a lot of time to start delving into that because I know we've still got loads of things to cover, but just really give us a picture of what we do really as business analysts, and of course the different levels of business analysis and some of our typical tools that we use. Right. Okay. So what is the value of a business analyst? So like I mentioned before, a lot of people, there are a lot of misconceptions, which we're going to discuss in the next slide or so, about business analysts. But then as an individual, if you want to start up something, you want to transition into business analysis, right? You want to be sure of the value you're going to be providing. You want to be sure of what you're going into, what you want to dedicate some good amount of your time or your resource to do, right? So as business analysts, we make sure that things get delivered, not just things getting delivered, but also making sure that the right things get delivered, period. If that's the only thing that you're taking away from today's session, then that's fine. So what we do is, like I mentioned, is that we are custodians. We are custodians of the business side, and we kind of stand in between as intermediaries, with the business. When we talk about business, we're talking about, the high stakeholders. Then they're also talking about, of course, the dev team. We stand in between the business and, of course, the technology team, developers, the testers, and the rest of them. We stand in the gap as we understand what this business is and what the change delivery requirements are like. We translate that down to the developers, the testers, the tech guys, the guys that work on the coding guys and all that, and then we translate that for them to be able to build that into maybe like a solution. So if it's a technological solution, for example, right, there has been issues over the years when businesses think that technologies actually drive solutions, right? Technologies are kind of like they are kind of like an enabler to a positive change, to driving positive change in an organization, but they don't really drive it. So when I talk about drive, it means that they don't take that sole responsibility of ensuring change, but then they enable positive change to occur. So you are at that middle point as a business analyst. You want to make sure that the right things that they're doing, the tech guys are doing are right, and they kind of align to what specific problems are of the business, right? And then whatever it is that they are developing, you want to make sure they're also in line with your strategic goals or your strategic roadmap. Right. So we also constructively challenge scope. One of the things that we do is that because we're built in such a way, we develop our skills and our expertise in such a way that we're kind of confident what we're doing. And then we also understand what good looks like, what success looks like. And then so we have that eagle eye as business analysts to look out and watch out for things that are not right. We have that eagle eye to constructively say, right, all right, we know we are used to doing this. We know we are used to going through this process, right? Why do we really need to do that? So these are kind of things that we do as business analysts. We challenge the status quo of things. We challenge how things are done, just to make sure that not just negatively challenging as well, but constructively challenging, the status quo of how things are done, just to make sure that the right things are being done. We also work by understanding the current state. So we don't rush off into building softwares. We don't rush off into introducing new systems or introducing new processes, in organization. But we take time, right, by the kind of tools and techniques that we have, like I mentioned before, running through our gap analysis to understand what our current states are, running through our SWOT analysis, our personal analysis to understand what our internal strengths and weaknesses looks like. What are those external opportunities and weaknesses? How do they look like? Right. So we run through those sort of current state analysis just to understand, the right thing that we need to do for the future. Right. If you want to count one to three, for example, you already want to count one before you jump to three. You need to count 1, 2 before you count 3. Right. So we really want to understand and bridge that gap. So we also address root causes of the business problem, right? So that it wouldn't occur. So that there's a difference between, so when we talk about problem identification, problem investigation, that's a very broad topic that we'll not attempt to delve into today because it requires a specific session. So suffice me to say that for every business analysis technique, for example, if you want to really talk about that, we want to dedicate an entire session to doing that. So when we talk about business problem, identification of business problems, and how we do that as business analysts, right? We try so hard to tackle the root causes. So there's a difference between a root cause and a symptom. All right, a root cause and a symptom of business. So we go extend to understanding root causes. Using techniques like asking the 5 whys, using techniques like using like the fishbone diagram or the A3 problem solving statement, just for us to be able to understand what the business problems are, what are they impacting, what's the nature of the problem, what are they impacting, and of course what the potential solution is going to look like, so that what they don't occur. So if we rush out to start addressing what really comes out as symptoms, then at the end of the day, the problem still exists. Okay. So that's very key as business analysts. That's one of the very key things that we do. And that's one of the key things that you also need to put into consideration. So whatever you found and you've come up to that point of getting yourself involved, the key ways that you influence our project is that when you're being stood up in a specific project, for example, and people are firing straight down to solution, for example, they're talking about building software already, even at a very initial stage, you need to constructively challenge them that you think they'll need to spend some time to really understand what the problems are. And then you go through that set of activities as business analysts, and then you also deliver your output of by a way of maybe like a problem statement for you to be able to communicate to the stakeholders what you think the problems are from the in-depth analysis that you've carried out, by analyzing current situation or by analyzing some set of existing data. So what are the known consequences of not engaging a business analyst is that the capabilities are not they're delivered quite all right, but they're not fit for purpose. So I've been in an environment where I found out that they've got that culture of changing their systems every 3 years. Got loads and loads of systems that literally would have been doing the same thing. So if a business analyst, for example, have been on those projects or have been active on those projects and must have carried out analysis like maybe like a resource audit or like a current situation analysis, then we're able to find out how can we reuse some things that we already have, how can we work around some systems still to be able to deliver the same purpose. So capabilities are delivered, but they're not fit for purpose. And then in terms of scalability, that system or that process will not be able to stand the test of time. And then, of course, wasted investment as well too. So because there are a lot of money that really go into these projects, we're talking about millions and millions of pounds, for example, goes into this very large project. And it doesn't really come in that easy. So, and then when the right things are not done within projects, right, that project can really go ahead in terms of, see, that's why we're different from project manager. So it can actually go ahead in terms of the pace and scope, but then does that project really deliver? Did it really deliver value for money? So that's another thing that we also need to put into consideration. And then just to also rush through as well too is that of course significantly is poor. I'm going to specifically call out poor customer experience, because whatever you're doing, all right, as an organization should be focused on your customers. You should be focused on making life easy for your customer, effortless customer experience, for example, reduce customer effort, for example, making your customers, improving your customer satisfaction scores and metrics and all that. So these are key things, these are key metrics that you want to put an eye on. So, but if you go through a project that didn't really go through a proper way of analysis, then it could result in poor experiences, poor customer experiences on some of the systems that you have delivered or some of your outputs as a project. And then we also have common misconception. After this slide, we'll take a pause and we'll take some questions if there is any, and then before we then move on to the next phase. So what are common misconceptions about BA? So there are loads and loads of misconceptions of who a business analyst is or what business analysis is really all about, right? So one of them is that BAs literally sit down in front of computers and just look at graphs. Look at graphs, study graphs, manipulate data, walk through data and all that. So we are not number crunchers. Quite all right. We require the key skill set for us to be able to analyze data, for us to be able to model data, right? But then that's not all we do. Most of the things that we drive in terms of change delivery or transformation activities that we do are being as a result or are closely in support of the existing data, which of course provides us with that business decision, right? But then that's not all we do. So there's always that difference between people used to mix up business analytics and business analysis. So the business analytics, of course, is an entire different discipline. Analytics, so that's essentially deals with being able to generate data sets that will help in driving business decisions. We make use of those data as business analysis, and we also it's also good for us to have soft skills as well to being able to use some business intelligence tools like Power BI, like Tableau, and the rest of them. But then that's really not all we do. We are not data analysts. That job is for data analysts. Another misconception is that BA, is a very technical job. It's an IT, it's an IT-based job. Right? Quite all right. I know this is kind of controversial, right? But if you listen keenly to what I've said earlier, so we're not just working around business systems. We're not just working around technologies. We're also interested in change of behaviors. We're also interested in change of processes. So it's not just about that technicality of working through technology and all that. Why this is very, very important for us to for us to have some sense of technicalities, right? It necessarily don't have to be. Because one of the key skills that you require is being able to, for example, drive change, facilitate change, identify problems, suggest solutions and all that, work across people, build a very great, stakeholder management skills, for example. That alone could also see you in doing well as a business analyst. Right. BA is just all about requirements. What is a requirement? I know at this point, I won't be surprised because I know even when I was still studying for my BCS certifications, I was I haven't had any work experience really, but I wasn't very sure of what the core requirements are really. I was really understanding different contexts. So what essentially is requirements if you want to a little bit unpack that one. And so requirements are essentially what the business needs, what the business needs to deliver a solution, what the stakeholders need to deliver a solution, what the system needs to deliver a significant level of output or performance, for example. So these are just this is just about the requirements. So people, right? When I say people, from my experience, I've worked with several project managers, for example, program managers, for example, that all the understanding is that, right, you or the BA, you go capture the requirements, deliver that, and then that's done. But that's not true. That's not all we do, right? We do more than that. I've tried to explain that we start up from that ideation phase, that conception phase of the project, right, to carry out some strategic analysis to even understand why at all, in the first place, are we doing these projects, right? And we are also very actively, down the project life cycle in terms of, the feasibility stage, planning stage, analysis stage, right? The implementation or delivery stage, as well as the deployment stage, transition to BA, which we're going to look. So we're going to still look at, like I said, what we do as BAs across this project life cycle. And then the last one is you can be a BA overnight. Some people think that yes, BA is non-technical. BA is technical. We don't require so much to do after all. All we need to do is learn how to speak very big English and learn how to talk through people, and then we are good to go. We can do BAs overnight. No, I don't think so. From my experience, I think from what I know so far from a couple of people that have gone that line as well too, BA is not. You can't achieve that overnight. You need to really put in some bit of attitude. I will start with. You need to develop that attitude, and then you need to do your piece of homework as well, right? The last stage of today's show, we're talking about the final tips, what we need to, if you want to progress, if you want to develop our skill set, what are we going to be doing as BA? So I'm not going to preempt that. I'm not going to delve into that. You get to that point where we unpack that. But then you can't be a BA overnight, period, right? If you're going to be a BA overnight, if you could be a BA overnight, then I can assure you that BAs, right, they won't be earning as much as they're earning to start with. Well, secondly, I can assure you that then everybody's going to be a BA, right? Because that's easy to do. Right. So we've got a very low, intensive session to go through what a BA's typical project world looks like, which I can't wait for us to start talking about this. But before we delve into that at this point, I know that you guys have all been listening to me, and I'd like to also hear from you guys too a little bit. So my specific question is, what are some of the misconceptions or some of the things that you're not sure about business analysis? Or what are those other misconceptions or things that you've heard and you're not sure about? And you want to share with us, right? You want to share with us just for us to know. Can anybody talk about that? Anybody signify? Talking us through some things, some hearsays that they heard about business analysis, and they're not very sure of, and they want to clarify. You don't want to clarify at this point. I expect to see hands flying and all that because I know that there are loads and loads of misconceptions.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi, this is Aziz. Good evening.
Aziz,
Thanks for this. Thanks for the presentation. Is there anything like Agile BA?
Yes. So there's what we call. Are you done with the question?
Yes, for now. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not a misconception. That is true. So as is that is true. So we've got Agile business analyst, right? So business analyst, for example, there are different kinds of business analysts, for example, and Agile is one of them. You can even see finance business analyst. You can even see technical business analyst. You can even hear about Salesforce business analyst. You can even hear about HR business analyst. We can hear loads and loads and loads of terminologies, right? So specific to your question, Agile business analyst. So I will conclude that company that is recruiting the Agile business analyst actually, they run their projects using the Agile methodology specifically. So as a business analyst, right, you should also, right, understand what Agile is all about. You should be able to go through, maybe like a program or a course or a certification of Agile, just so that you already understand what Agile methodology is all about, so that you'll be able to work as an Agile business analyst. Yes, so you can have business analysts that are specific on that Agile approach of change delivery, right? So yeah, you can actually have that, and that answer really comes there for me to maybe throw a little more light on project delivery methodology. I think it's something that we also need to mention just to kind of build a concept. So for typical projects in terms of methodology, so when you hear talking about methodology, it's a very big grammar, right? Essentially means how to deliver the project, what process, what are the key activities that we do to deliver that project. So when we talk about project delivery methodologies, how do we deliver that project? So typically, we've got the V method, or maybe we call it also the linear method, and also known as waterfall, for example. So waterfall methodology essentially is being able to run through the whole phases of the project, from inception phase, right, to analysis phase, to the delivery phase, to the transition to BAU. And you're not going to do anything, right? You're not going to stop that project for any reason, except for maybe business sponsors want to stop. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to deliver anything at all till the end of the project, right? Whereas Agile is that you're delivering value incrementally. So you're delivering value at a piecemeal. Let's say, for example, you are delivering a customer app. You want to, first of all, in an Agile setting, right? You want to, first of all, maybe give customers the ability to log in, deliver that value, and present to your customer. You also want to maybe, for example, give customers the ability to make payments via the app, deliver that piece of functionality within the app, then make it live for your customers to use. You go ahead to deliver another piece of feature and deliver. But a typical waterfall will wait and deliver all those sets of features, or feature sets, for example, before you can actually bring that to life. So these are the differences between Agile and waterfall. But there's another bit that we also call the hybrid or the Wagile. So the hybrid is just like a combination of waterfall, which is the traditional business analysis way, and then combination of waterfall and Agile methodology, project delivery. So that's that. So thank you, Aziz, for asking that question, which actually allowed us to throw more light on this. So is there any other misconceptions that we're having as business analysts? So now that you want to, let's drop it down to something that we can relate with, right? Ask questions, right? Most of us, from what I understand, the majority of demographic of most of us that are here is that we are kind of interested to moving into business analysis. I want to assume that part of the things that you want to do is that you want to be curious. So as part of curiosity, what are those misconceptions? What are those things that you're not very sure of that you want us to talk about, right? So Michael, I think you have your hands raised. Michael.
Yeah, Ikenna, it's actually Basi.
Okay.
I want to confirm the methodology. Is it the job of the BA or the job of the PM? Actually, I just want to confirm that, or both of them. You know, I'm still coming from a layman's point of view, so I just want to.
It's
just
okay.
want to be sure that, like you said, let's ask some stupid
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. It's part of our job. We ask stupid questions. If we don't learn how to ask stupid questions and we make assumptions, then we could, at the end of the day, mislead our projects. So whatever you're not clear on, you can always ask. Thanks a lot for that question. Thank you. All right. So in terms of methodology, so project delivery methodology is a specific way of delivering a project that an organization has decided to adopt. Right, so an organization, typical organization, for example, could decide to adopt, let's say, waterfall. You say, okay, we find value in waterfall delivery because of the way that we work, because of the because of the demographic of our customers, for example, and all that, or because of the kind of resource that we have. We want to adopt waterfall, and they agree to adopt that waterfall. So for every resource that is going to be working within that project, in terms of, let's say, for example, developers, software testers, business analysts, program managers, project managers, everybody is going to adopt that waterfall methodology across the project lifecycle, right? And then in another context, so we've got an organization, for example, that are keenly interested in agile. They say, right, we don't like waterfall. Waterfall is an old school, right? It's the traditional way of doing things. We think we should be able to be delivering value for our customers. We think that is right for us to do. We want to be able to be collecting customer feedback when we're delivering values. We want to be able to do that. And they decide that, yeah, agile it is for us. And then they adopt that, and everybody within that project, right? Everybody within that project, and that's one of the things that, as is mentioned before, it's some organization will want maybe like a business analyst that is specific on agile delivery method to be, in that project. So everyone in that project is going to be applying agile principles and agile methodology. Then the other way around, we also have the agile, the hybrid, for example. So like I said, so it depends really on the context of the organization, how they are working. And then so organizations are kind of fluid as well too. And I think that's the best way to go about it, because you can't really say that depending on the context of what you're working on, you can then be able to decide what approach really works well for the project. So I hope that clarifies. So both PMs and BAs are going to be working using the same methodology adopted by the organization. All right. And so do we have any more person again? That also requires some clarification. Right. So in the absence of that, what I'm going to do now, just to be able to set our expectations straight, what we're going to do now is want to take a peek at, what some of our key deliverables as BAs across the project lifecycle. And then, speaking out from my experience as well, I'll also be sharing some tidbits of what I've done in the past, what I'm currently doing. And then one thing I wouldn't do, right, is to attempt to break down everything. No, we won't be able to do that, obviously, within the few period and a half. But then I'm just going to be touching base, on the key things that we need to do. And also, of course, a key assumption to this as well is that delivery life cycle, for example, or the definition of delivery life cycles it varies. It's kind of different, depends on the organization. So an organization, for example, will be talking about conception phase. The other organization will be calling this a backlog. So we'll also be calling it like ideation phase, for example. So depends on it's really not fixed. Nothing is really cast on stone in the world of project management and all that. So typically, before a project starts, right? And let's use customer application, customer app, customer mobile app. A business, for example, does not have a customer mobile app. And then that business wants to, they kind of start thinking about it. Somebody has that idea that, okay, do we really think that we should put together like a mobile app for our customers for them to use? That's ideation. People come together and start thinking about that. At that phase, nothing's happened so far. It's just between maybe 1, 2, 3 people, right? That begin to nurture that idea, right? So that's like a conception phase of the project. So there's a process called, a project request, right? Project request, that means you're actually trying to think of, we really want to go through this. I'm requesting to, as a customer experience team manager, I think our customer is going to need a mobile app. So a project request comes through, it's gone through, it's being looked through, validated, and it's also approved. And then a business analyst picks that up. And what we do as business analysts is that we want to be able to identify the need for that. What is the need for this business change? What is the need for us to be able to build and implement a customer app? How do we really understand that? So one of the things that we do is by, of course, running through, a problem statement or opportunity statement. So it could either be a problem. So necessarily, it doesn't really have to be like an existing problem. But then we also want to also explore areas of opportunities, for example. So, but as a way of problem statement, so in problem statement or problem analysis and investigation, we want to be able to clearly understand what the underlying business problems are. So a typical business problem for an organization that wants to develop a customer app could be that they've got loads and loads of direct contacts, direct customer queries into their customer center. People are calling, customers are calling for every bit of thing that they need to do, right? That, for example, could also be seen as a problem. At the same time, it could also be seen as what? As an opportunity. So you really want to understand what are those data you want to be looking at as a business analyst. You want to really understand what are those data, what are those data that really informs of the majority of our customers, for example, are calling us, or maybe they are going through our website using a mobile app. So that means they actually have a phone. So they're actually using, let's say, smartphone, right? And then we're seeing this as an opportunity. Or maybe you also want to looking at those data that informs you that customers are calling mainly because they're not very clear on how to make payments. They want to make payment via phone. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, right, to do this, to attend to customers that are calling for every bit of thing. All right. So what you're doing as a business analyst is that you are investigating what the problems are. You're going through existing documentations. You're carrying out what we call the document analysis. You're also carrying out what we also call root cause analysis, just to make sure that you're not just dealing with the symptoms of the issue. So you're also deploying what we call the 5 whys. You want to understand what the problem is, right? Why is it really a problem? Okay, if you say this is a problem, why is it a problem really? Who is it affecting, right? Where is it a problem? What sort of process is it really impacting as a problem? How can we really say that I define this as a specific problem or opportunity? We want to be carrying out those critical analyses for us to be able to understand that, right? We want to be also checking what is this really impacted on, when did it start, right? So these are sort of things that we do, at that very initial phase. And some of the output that we do is a mind map. So I intentionally didn't want to give us, show us what a mind map looks like. But a mind map, some of us will see what the mind map looks like today. I'm sure some of us might be kind of discouraged. But mind map essentially could look like a big way of just thinking. It's essentially, an ideation to where you can just think through and write out what you think, and then you draw lines, just kind of explain what you're thinking. We also make use of fishbone diagram. So fishbone diagram is also a very key technique that you as a business analyst should be able to use. I mean, even without going through training, you can even see loads and loads of videos of in YouTube of how to go through problem investigation using a fishbone diagram, which essentially specifies what the cause of the problem and the effects of the problem, the impact of the problem on people, for example, machinery, plants, systems, and all that. Yeah, so these are part of one of the very key deliverables, that we do at this stage. And then we also have the scoping stage. So the scoping stage is, that means the project, is now going to kick off. We are still at the point of trying to, understand a little bit of what we are doing in terms of what's the scope, to what extent do we really want to achieve, as a project. So we are working with key stakeholders like the program manager or like the product manager or the product owner to be able to define what the scope is, what this customer app, for example, to what extent, what are the things that we really want to be doing, within this. And then you also, as a business analyst, you're also going to be carrying out your stakeholder analysis at this point. You want to be able to identify who the stakeholders are. You also want to be supporting or writing up the business case. And of course, you also want to be going through your benefit realization, process. So I'm going to be showing us, three of things that, these three things, one of the things that we've done. So in terms of stakeholder analysis and identification, like I mentioned before, that's one of the first things that you need to do, right? In terms of understanding who are those that are going to be involved in this project. So by the left-hand side is what we call stakeholders wheel, right? And then when we talk about stakeholders as a business analyst, you're looking at, who are your internal stakeholders, who are your external stakeholders. We really want to make sure that you identify everybody that is going to be involved in that project, or people that are going to be impacted by the project, or people that have significant level of interest and power to that project. And then by the right-hand side, we also have the power and interest grid. So the power and interest grid, essentially, or P&G grid, whatever is that, actually tries to show, like I mentioned before, that significant level of influence and of course interest on the change. So for example, if you look through what we have, I'm just giving you a example. So for a project like this, all right, you could see that the project manager, of course, have a significant level of high influence, right, to the project, right? They also have a very high interest, but then in terms of interest, really, after their scope delivery, after delivering of the scope of the project, or be able to manage their resources of the project, but then they're not really interested at the end of the day, really, because they want to drive that change. They are not the customers. They are not the customer experience manager, for example, that is kind of very keenly interested in developing this customer app I mentioned before as an example. So we've got tools like the CATWA analysis, right? And we've also got, like I said, the stakeholders analysis. So out of this stakeholders analysis identification feeds into the communication pack. So having identified these key stakeholders as business analysts, you want to start talking about, right, what are strategy in terms of keeping these guys informed in the course of this project, right? What medium are we going to be using? What are their needs to start with? And then what medium are we going to be using to communicate with these people? And at what phase of the project are we going to be communicating to? So this kind of feeds into what our communication plan and pack looks like. Then secondly, like I mentioned for the scoping stage as well, is that you, as a business analyst, like for example, where I'm working currently, I don't write up the business case as a whole, right? So I input into the business case. And then when I was working, at the University of Oxford, so I was slightly involved in developing business case. But here, like I said, I just input into that. So, but one of the key deliverables that we do, while you're writing up business case is carrying out an option analysis. So option analysis really entails like an extensive research and analysis, into what you are trying to do as business, as a means of scope. So you want to be checking, that customer app, for example, is this kind of structured fit? Is it fit for purpose? Is it fit in the sense that how does that really align to our corporate strategy to ensure an effortless customer experience? You want to be able to ensure that it aligns into that. You want to be able to also ensure that, that the feature set, whatever we are going to be doing in this app, for example, that it can actually stand the test of time. You also want to ensure that working with the PM, the project manager, or key resources that are involved, to also ensure whether the business actually have enough resources. Is it really within budget? You want to make sure that it has enough resources for you to actually carry out that project. So you want to be checking out, the different options, option do nothing, for example. Option do nothing means that you're not developing any app. You're just remaining status quo, right? That's option 0. Then you want to also explore options like, do you want to buy off a customer app from a ready-made customer app? Or then the third option could be, for example, do you want to build an app in-house? So you want to go through, those questions, and then you want to also explore these questions, like I said. Do you have sufficient funds? Do you have, is it cost effective? Is it fit within the organization? You want to be able to check through all these things for you to know whether should we really proceed with this, or what of the options, or which of the options really are we going to adopt in this project? So I'm taking time to explain so that you understand the level of value that you add into a project as a business, right? Then the next one is you also want to support you want to drive, not just support, you want to drive the benefit management process. So the benefit management process, of course, essentially this is essentially what MAP looks like. I'm going to be showing you the map, what it looks like in the next slide, but I just want to kind of explain that before we see that map, right? So as a BA, you want to understand why are we really doing this? What are the key, not just the key features, not just customers' ability, for example, to make payments, for example. What is it going to be resulting into? Right? What is it going to be resulting into? Right? Let's say, for example, how is that really aligned to your organizational strategy and all that? You want to be able to specify that at that stage, right? You want to work across your business sponsors, different stakeholders for you to go through, those potential reasons, benefits or disbenefits of going through that project. So do you understand? You begin to understand our value. So we don't just jump into project. We don't just jump into change immediately, but we take our time to actually do that. So the next slide shows you, right now, don't run off, okay, in a bit, and don't feel kind of. So this is a piece of what I've done in the past, and this is just essentially what we call benefits realization map. It's not a big deal. Forget about the arrows and all that. It's not a big deal, right? It's essentially taking your time to really understand the framework, understand the concept of benefits management process. So a typical benefit management process will start from identification of what the problems are. So that means you're talking with your stakeholders, you're talking with business sponsors to critically think and analyze, the benefit of what we are doing. It starts by that identification, then it moves on to getting to plan the benefit planning phase. So benefit management essentially is being able to say, right, so these are the current number of people that are calling within our customer center, for example, and they want to make payment. These are the specific number of people, 1,000 people that are calling every month for them to make payment. But for the fact that we're going to put a payment feature into the app, we want to be able to significantly reduce that number by 80%, right? So you want to go back, you want to understand what your baselines are, right? And then you also want to be able to set some form of targets, towards that. So essentially, like I said, benefit map, I will not attempt to shed more light into the essentially benefit map will start from, of course, right-hand side, which is business drivers, understanding how that aligns with a strategic vision. So if you look through that, you see some of the strategic visions, colleagues find it easier to perform at their best. That's a very high-level strategy business driver. And then what the objectives are for the project, how does that relate to a project objective? And then what are the key specific outcomes of the project and all that. So we run through that, and this is essentially what it looks like in terms of map. So that's another session for another day, right? So these are some of the, so you deliver this, you're sending this to your stakeholders, and you're walking them through this, right? You're making sure that they understand it's not just about doing this, right? But you also just want to ensure that people actually have sense and the value of what you did by understanding what you actually produced. Next. Then the definition phase is that we move on to define what business needs. So these are like different phases of the project, and like I said, it could be called something else entirely. Depends on your context, depends on the organization where you're going to be working. So you're defining the businesses and the solution, planning for the delivery, also analyzing the situation, and running through documents, analysis, reviewing documents, understanding what, carrying out some user research, market research, and all that. Gathering and analyzing your requirements. So that's what mostly happens at the definition phase. So at this stage, really, a lot of things happen, as a business analyst, and also, within the business analysis service delivery, the assist situation, like I tried to explain earlier, which I'm also going to run through now, is essentially, like I said, what you are doing is that you are reviewing an existing process, right? What are the step-by-step process of customers, for example? Let's say customers being able to set up their direct debit in the app. Oh, sorry, what are step-by-step process of customers setting up a direct debit? It could be like, let's say, for example, customers going to be calling in and then ask them some questions and all that. So you're going to be looking through those process, right? Because you want to understand the current way things are being done. And then you also want to be doing stuff like maybe carrying out like observations. You want to be using techniques like observation, shadowing, protocol analysis, for example, as a technique for you to adopt. And then as a business analyst, you also producing process maps or assist process, or maybe you're also picking up some notes that could help you to write your business case. And then also critically, you're also producing what we call the business impact analysis. So business impact analysis is having understood what the current way we are working and people that are involved, the technologies that are involved, the system that are involved, right? You want to be able to carry out, an impact analysis just to be able to specify, how this is going to be impacting different systems, for example, different processes and different people, to start with. But Vanilla, you have your hand raised.
Yes, yeah, hi. Sorry, just a quick question. Just trying to find out if you have a project manager, do you have to do all of this? I mean, creating or documenting like the business case and all of that. Just asking, just to be sure.
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, in terms of creation of, there are some key documents and artifacts that are traditional to business analysts. That it's your job to do that, right? I mean, in terms of requirements to start with, primarily that's your job. In terms of carrying out like feasibility report, or feasibility analysis, or strategy analysis, SWOT, PESTLE, and the rest of them, problem investigation, that's your job. You own it as a job, right? And then even you have got your PM. So PMs really, what does a PM really do? So in a very short statement, PM essentially, right, are keenly interested in organizing the scope of the project, management of the scope of the project, and management the resources of the project, managing, of course, the pace of the project, just to be able to ensure that that project delivers, rightly. So there are specific things, input. Most of these things that I'm talking about today specifically are techniques, are outputs that business analysts do. Thank you. All right, I think someone else, sorry, I didn't get your hand. So someone else got his hand up, please. Can you go on with the question? Hello.
Hi, Ikenna. This is Emmanuel. I want to ask a question. That's a slide you showed before this one. That's the benefit realization.
Yeah.
During any project, is it the BA that writes benefit realization or the PMO?
Okay, so in my setting now, right, is the BA in my setting, and it's also as one of our core service delivery, as identified as defined by BCS to start with, is that we also go through that benefit management process. So it's one of the things that we do. So part of what I do, or what I've done in my previous job, is of running through that benefit. So it's actually sits with the business analyst. But the PMO, for example, right, or the portfolio management officer, for example, office. Also, some of them also have that sort of background. So it really depends on your context. So in my context, for example, you are going to be the one that is going to identify, support the identification of the benefit. You're going to be the one that's going to facilitate that. You're going to be the one that will help to plan out benefit in terms. You're also going to be the one that is going to map the benefit. And then you're also going to work closely with the business sponsors to track the benefit, just to ensure that those benefits are actually in line with their realizations, right? So it sits with the business analyst, really. So, but if you find yourself in an organization where the PMO does the benefit, then you're very lucky. You're going to be very lucky to be doing that. All right. So I hope that clarifies, Emmanuel.
Yeah, thank you, Ikenna. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's run again. I'm just conscious of our time, right? So, so as part of this application phase as well, we gathered the requirements, like I mentioned before. We're going to be using like workshops. We're going to be using like focus group. We're going to be, using techniques like one-to-one interviews for us to be able to work or collaborate or engage key stakeholders to understand what the business needs are like, and then so that we can actually produce that as a form of maybe like a requirements catalog, right, which is a documentation of like a building up our user stories, building up our backlog user stories when we're talking about agile to serve, right? So we also, part of that requirements management process also has to do with like, so a typical requirements management process will start by the identification of requirements, identification of that business, right? So getting to capture that, so identify, you capture that by interviews, by one-to-one workshops. Then how you capture that, the next phase is of course getting to document that. So if you're using Agile, for example, you're documenting those as a way of user stories. Then if you're using maybe like Waterfall, you're documenting that, you know, using a typical requirements, traditional requirements way of writing them. And then you're also validating that requirement. You're reviewing the requirements with the relevant business case, so just to ensure that they are correct and they represent, you know, the businesses, or they represent, you know, stated stakeholder requirements. And then you are also validating that as well. That's a very large topic. When you talk about requirements management process, there's a specific module for that, you know, for PCS, requirements engineering, you know, which you can, you know, we don't going to be discussing today. Then, of course, to be situation is, of course, the desired state. You want to be able to work across, you know, multiple stakeholders to determine how essentially is our dream picture going to look like. Document that in a to-be process map. So this is typically what a process map looks like, right? In some setting, I'm so blessed right now to that the fact that I stopped modeling processes, right? So, but in my previous roles, I have, you know, modeled processes, right? Process is essentially, like I said, just like step-by-step approach, ways of doing things. So if you look through this process, it's very pretty straightforward, right? These symbols are what we call BPMN, right? So BPMN essentially means business process modeling notation. And then they are kind of standard figures, standard symbols that present something. So, right, if you see, for example, like let's say, for example, this is like a training administration management process, right? So, so this was actually done using what we call Microsoft Visio, and then you want to be able to go through the step-by-step of what happens really. For example, let's say the training administration sets date of training. All right, after setting the date of training, the next step is of course send the date of training. Then 14 days before the training starts. So that round figure that you see in there looks like a clock. Essentially, it's a notation that shows time. Then, of course, you also want to be checking the number of then after checking that, they check the number of registration, which is the next step. 14 days before training starts, you want to check the number of registration. And if the number is less than 3, you send rejections that, okay, no more, sorry, we cannot do this training. So we don't have enough participants, right? And that ends that process. And that stuff that looks like diamond with an X in between is called an exclusive gateway. We're not going to be delving into that at all. So, but it's part of things that we do as business analysts. So it's part of techniques that we learn as business analysts for you to be able to really understand how to, by way of drawing or modeling, right, representing activities of tasks, outputs, and others. So essentially, this is what it looks like. And it's kind of fun. It's like telling a story with using symbols, right? That's essentially what it means. Just telling a story. So implementation and release is I'm trying to rush through so that we'll save enough time, hoping that we have enough questions, right, at the end of the interactive sessions. So the next phase, of course, is implementation and reviews, right? So implementation and section phase, all right? You want to be, for example, you want to be working with the technical team to just ensure that the solution is developed. You want to be producing your wireframes that essentially looks like a representation of what the system looks like. So if you're building an app, for example, you want to be creating wireframes using different tools, different technology tools like Microsoft Visio, for example, or Lasamic or Mural or whatever. And you want to be using that to build something that looks like an app and, you know, presenting that. So you also want to be working with a Scrum team to validate acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria is just like, you know, like a is a bit of a statement that goes with user stories that simply signifies what needs to be true for this to be done, for these requirements to be fulfilled, what do we really need to see, what do we really need to check, just like a checklist. And then we're also working with testing team to clarify on the acceptance criteria, that we are not clear with them. And these are sort of activities that you do at this phase. That means we need to, do that. Then the build and test, of course, is essentially when, the actual building takes place. The technology teams are beginning to build, developers are beginning to write their code, they're beginning to build the app, right? You want to be able to refine your backlog. So in an agile setting, for example, so I did this using an agile setting. In an agile setting, for example, you want to be able to be refining your requirements in sense of making more sense out of them. There are loads of requirements at this stage that potentially will be new, right? While introducing a new requirement or a new user story, right? Before you refine, you want to be able to, carry some form of analysis on those requirements, but just to make sure that they are not just wish list, but they actually make business value. You want to be doing that, you want to be, attending daily Scrum. And for organizations that don't have a Scrum Master, you want to be the one that will be facilitating the daily Scrums. You want to be attending the Scrum ceremonies like, the planning meeting, the show and tell meeting that is also known as sprint review. And then you also want to, of course, attending, of course, the sprint retrospective. So these are, like I said, we're not going to be delving into that, but essentially, starting from daily Scrum in my list down to sprint retrospective are what we call agile ceremonies, sort of meetings and activity, sort of meetings that happened, in an agile environment. I also want to be supporting the user acceptance testing. So you want to be able to help in the testing of the system or the technology or the process to start with. And then sort of documentation artifact that you might be producing in this phase, of course, is the product backlog, management of that product backlog, prioritizing it and all that. And then you also want to be helping in writing up your test strategies or test plans, and then also it could also sit with you to write up the test cases, test script, as the case would be. So it depends really on your background, but essentially at this phase, you just want to, as a custodian of that business, you just want to make sure that those requirements are tested. You just want to make sure that everything is still in line with what we have initially agreed upon as a scope, what the business needs that you actually have identified far earlier in the project. You want to be able to be a custodian of that, even at this phase. So the release and deployment, because of time, I'm going to measure this slide with the change management phase as well. So in terms of release and deployment, essentially, and change management, we're talking about, all right, now that we're done with this, okay, how do we really bring it to a live environment? When we talk about live environment, we're talking about how to introduce it to our daily ways of working, and all that. And then, as business analysts, you want to be able to preparing, hand over documents, and you also want to be able to presenting or preparing training guides. You want to be actively doing that as well. User guides, or intranet publishing. So intranet is just like internal website that staff use. You want to be able to do that so that you're able to communicate appropriately, right? You want to be able to be doing these bits, within this change management process, right? So you also want to be likely involved. I just want to call out that you also want to be likely involved in, of course, finalizing what the benefits are. So having gone through these phases within the project, so the benefits will last even after the project. So even after the project, you want to be able to track those benefits that you and the sponsor have identified. Just make sure that it's still hitting the target, right? You want to be able to be doing that. You want to be signing that up at that stage. You want to be able to, facilitate trainings just to make sure that, for example, the customer contact center knows, how to communicate, using the app. They know how to use the system, right? You just delivered a finance system. You want to be able to make sure that the accounts officers, for example, or the finance team knows essentially how to use the system, And then, so that ends, that cycle, that life cycle, starting from that ideation phase down to that change management phase. So the next phase, we just want to start unpacking and start winding down on what we have done so far for today. And I just wanted to share some sort of infographic. So this, I'm not going to take ownership of this. So this is actually called out from 2022 IIBA Global Report. And for some of us, I know most of us already know what IIBA is, but IIBA just claims, of course, is the International Institute of Business Analysis. That's like the world body. And then so they carried out some kind of analysis and survey across the world, and then which involved 165 countries, and of which 4,245 people actually responded to their surveys. And we found out that in 2022 that women actually earn averagely $1,835,000, and men earn $1,500. So it's really not that far-fetched, and this is kind of like a 6% increase in the amount that men were earning as at 2021. So we want to look at that, as part of just a base salary by gender, and then in terms of years of experience, 25%. Significant for me to discuss about is that 25% of business analysis today, right, are actually less than 2 years in that profession. So that shows how people really are, how we're putting new entrants into this, and of course, significant for us to also note that 2 to 5 years old into the profession represent 3% of that. Caroline, I can see your hands up, but just hold on briefly to that your question, okay? So that we run through this, then we'll then open up interactions, right? So sorry for that, okay? But I take note of the fact that you have your hands raised up, right? Thank you. And yeah, so the current business analysis outlook as well, still looking at this, what level of skills are important for business analysts. So as you can see, that problem solving is very, very critical for you to know as a business analyst. So 93% says that yes, critical for them is, they want to be able to, they need to have that problem solving skills. It actually is helping them on the job. You also need to have that very good sense of communication. So that means your presentation skills should be top notch. And then also you should be able to also understand the context and the right communication technique for you to use in engaging your stakeholders. That's very key. You need to really understand that. Then facilitation. When we talk about facilitation, we're talking about maybe facilitating workshops, facilitating focus group sessions, and then we also facilitating interviews as well too. So these are sort of skills that you want to look at, and this sort of skills, right, is something that we can, people that really want to go into, you want to start building up those skills, right? You don't need to be business analyst for you to be able to, be curious, for example, into, or for you to critically start thinking creatively, or critically, into a lot of things that are happening around you. And then the techniques used regularly. All right. I will not jump straight into this, but if you look at what we've got, you see that brainstorming. So it's necessarily not even technical rules. So one thing that this should be showing is that you're not seeing loads and loads of technical stuff popping up as presence on very high proportion. But brainstorming essentially is that you're thinking through, you're facilitating people to think, to ideate, to critically think about things and come up with ideas. So it's just all about brainstorming. So you can see that it presents about 10%, and that happens to be the highest contributor to that. Right? And then our skill set. So a business analysis skill set is mostly divided into, so we call ourselves a T-shaped professional. So it's got like the letter T, the capital T, right? So the left-hand side represents our personal qualities. Then the right-hand side presents, business knowledge. Then, the depth represents, our professional techniques that we actually use, as business analysts. So you need to, as a business analyst, have that level of skill set that cuts across, multiple domains, right? multiple environments that you find yourself. You should be able to adapt yourself into places that you find yourself. You should be able to use your personal skills, so your personal communication skills, your relationship building skills, for example, for you to be able to influence decisions. And then so these professional techniques essentially are just like those key techniques that we want to also learn, take our time to learn as business analysts by way of self-study training. So you could carry out your personal research on T-shaped professionals as a business analyst, but this is actually, as postulated by British Computer Society (BCS), on what our skills going to look. And it's very key for you to know this so that you know how to actually build these skills for you to be able to transition into as a business analyst. All right. So I'm going to skip through this because I think, okay, yeah. So developing business skill set at business, and I wanted to mention this before we move on, right? So one of the ways that you can develop your skills as business analyst is also to attend trainings. Could be classroom-based training, could be virtual training. So there are loads and loads of training out there as business analysts that you can actually attend, and some of them run for different periods of time, just for you to be able to have that kind of hand skill experience of as a business analyst for you transfer into that. And then the next one is, of course, self-study, personal study, So something good about personal study is that you drive, it calls for a lot of dedication. It's really not easy. It calls for a lot of dedication and commitment for you to, and sacrifice as well, for you to actually go through the way of personal stuff. So as an experience, as a personal experience, I started from the angle of personal study, right? I read a couple of books which I have suggested here, right? Just for me to be able to understand what business analysis is all about. So it's worthy for you to, capture some of these books. That's very key. Business analysis techniques, right? You can find some of them on Amazon. If you want the paperback, you can always order for that. You can get some of them. But very key to call out here is a guide to business analysis book of knowledge, version 3. That is very key. So if you are based in the UK, or maybe you're interested to go through like business analysis certification, and you need to go through that piece of book, and for you to be able to really understand that concept, that framework, from BCS, just like the BCS. Then you also look at the one I find so boring is the Babbook, right? So Babbook is the book by the business analysis body of knowledge that's been, it was written up by IIBA, that International Institute of Business Analysis. Just like, to call it whole long story short, it's just our Bible. I'm not saying that Bible is boring, but you will take a lot of time for you to read that book. So point is, personal study is key. Then, so I started from personal study, then I went on to, to also training as well too, before I, started, transitioning gradually into as a business analyst. And then work experience, I'm glad that some of us are already talking about work experience, right? So work experience is that if you've got the opportunity, to experience what PA does, or be in an environment to be involved, even as an apprentice, it also helps you to really, be able to apply these techniques into practice. Personally, I also did IIBA UK mentorship program. So I went through that program. It's a 6-month program that we registered for that, and then we are assigned to a specific mentor, and who actually mentored and coached me through that 6-month process. And then we went through different activities because he was a senior BA and then yeah, up to today, when I'm practicing, we still relate. I still fall back to him if I require something like that. So you want to be able to get yourself into opportunities like this. And then you don't necessarily have to be a BA before you were able to register as for IB or BCS, or for you to be able to attend their networking or certification opportunities. You don't have to do that. You need to get yourself engaged into that world of business analysis. You want to be amongst around that. And then yeah, so running through, these are some of the core certifications of business analysis. So this just like IIBA. So if you're planning to practice anywhere in the world or far away in the world, of course, the IIBA certification starting from the ECBA is the one you want to consider first, right? Before you move on to you develop your experience, 2 to 3 years experience, you want to do the CCBA and the CBAT as well. So as a route, right, IIBA will provide these routes for you to take these certifications. So each of these certifications are entire different modules and they have their own weights. They carry their own weight as it is. So this is for IIBA. And the next one is for BCS. So BCS are for people, for example, is Chartered Institute of IT, British Computer Society. If you are in the UK and you want to also, so as if you are in UK, for example, you can decide to do BCS or you want to go by route of IIB. I went through the route of BCS. So like I said, I'm a BCS boy. And then, yeah, essentially, these are the process that you want to follow through. So as part of your certification, so you've got different levels of certification. You've got the foundational level, you've got the practitioner level, you've got the professional level. And there are some of prerequisites. For example, for practitioner level, right, you need to pass 4 modules. You need to pass 4 modules and attend a 50 minutes oral interview for each course. So, and those 4 modules are called out from the core modules. So the core modules are business analysis. Sorry, the foundation modules are the business analysis foundation. Then the core modules, you have the business analysis practice. You also have the requirements engineering. You want to be able to pass that, and then any other modules that falls under these fractional levels is the practitioner. Is a practitioner certification for it. So you want to go through those 4 certifications before you gained your international diploma, and then before you move on. So you want to take time to do that, and then for the final tips, right? I'm just going to run through this, then allow a time to interact because just conscious of our time. So I said before, this is just coming straight from me as an individual, right? I just want to ensure that if you don't get anything, this is the core reason why we're here, how getting the job, right? So we want to understand the role you want, like you're trying to do today, and the skills that are needed for the role. You want to take serious look at what your skills are. So essentially you're carrying out a gap analysis on yourself. What are your current skills? And then what are the skills that you need to be a business analyst, for you to thrive as a business analyst, right? I've showed you guys the T-shaped professional skill set as a business analyst. You want to be able to review that and then plan out how do you intend to do that. It actually involves, dedication, really. I won't lie to you guys. So it's not something that is done overnight. It calls for personal dedication, personal discipline, as well as being picked. Having the right attitude is also key. Being picked, fixated into what you're trying to achieve, and also making sure that nobody actually deviates you from what you're trying to achieve. So what specifically, we've mentioned some of the techniques that we'll learn, but work specifically on building your skill sets. As much as you can, research the right training center you want to join, go through the training, show intense of commitment into what you're doing, right? And then, because at the end of the day, like we have most of our, you are actually going to be involved in critical business decisions. You don't want to go there and be messing up, right? So you want to be able to equip yourself with the right skills, but you can't do that, at a very comprehensive stage. You want to do that, and then at the same time being able to transition and learn on the job, which is very key. I learned a lot on the job. Most of us learned a lot on the job, and we keep learning every day. You want to get yourself informed, industry trend, what's happening in business analysis, subscribe to a lot of newsletters. Even up till tomorrow, I'm still receiving newsletters, I'm still attending webinars, I'm still learning a lot. And then of course, you want to familiarize yourself with some tools like Visio, which is quite easy to use, and of course, Microsoft Excel that will help you with data analysis. And then I want to dwell a little bit on the CVs. Coming from your background, whichever background you find yourself, key for you is for you to be able to build an ATS-friendly CV. So ATS-friendly CV, that's a different topic on its own that we might want to unpack separately. So essentially, you you have gotten the skills, right? And then you want to go ahead to start making an application. You need to write a proper CV. But that CV is essentially what is going to sell you. And you also want to make sure that you're going through the job description, analyzing that job description as the BA that you are, and then being able to present that job description specifically to the job that you are applying. This is very key. If you didn't learn anything or you didn't hear anything I said today, please, I'm going to repeat it again. It's very key for you to build an ATS-friendly CV. And that essentially means understanding what the job description is of the specific role that you're applying for, and then being able to tailor your CV in line with that. So you're not just throwing CVs, but actually throwing in very tailored CV. So instead of just throwing 100 CVs into multiple job openings, take your time to build something, and being able to apply that. Register yourself on job sites, as I mentioned of some few, like Indeed, Total.com, CW Jobs, your Glassdoor. I mean, there are loads and loads of them. I can imagine that loads and loads of them. Then finally, do your research. Prepare yourself for interview. So while you're applying as business analyst, while you're applying, prepare yourself for interview, and then do yourself kind of research. Prepare yourself interview questions. That's a different topic entirely that I want to unpack, separately. How to prepare for interviews. What are those techniques that you need to use as interviews? When I did my first, so I was my training when I got my job with the University of Oxford, my first job with Oxford University, and it was good that I learned what I learned as at then. So I was able to kind of represent that, and I was able to, of course, show confidence into that interview. That alone goes a very long way to moving to the next step or the next step of your life. Really, that goes a very long way. And then lastly, like I said, be brave, be humble, curious, and go after your dream you want. Right? On that note, I want to say thank you for taking your time. I know that we had loads and loads of things to take in today. And then at this point, we're going to open up room for some questions. I know that Caroline, you've got some questions. Simi, I can see your hand raised up. And so we're going to come to Simi, but let's take Caroline's questions first. Thank you. Do we still have Caroline here?
Hello, thank you very much for the training. I'm so sorry, it was an accident. My hand just clicked onto the.
Okay, it was an accident. Okay, no. That's fine. That's fine, Caroline.
That's an excellent training. Thank you ever so much.
All right, welcome. It's not really a training, Caroline, right? So it's just like an expository of all of things that we do as business analysts. And like I said, a training will require like a proper unpacking of each of these things. It takes time, really. So it's just like an overview of what we do, really, and trying to flare up some kind of interest in some people that actually want to go into this room. Right, Simi, Simi, I know that this is a real hand that you have raised up, or is that an accident as well? All right.
No, it's not an accident.
All right, fire down.
Yeah, thank you so much for familiarizing us with the role of a BA. So currently I'm a student, and I'll be done with school in 2025, early 2025, first quarter. But you spoke about mentorship, because my challenge is I'm studying something related to being a BA, and I really want to be a business analyst. But I don't have the work experience. And you cannot just come out and say, I want to be a business analyst when you're applying. Sometimes you might have to maybe start from another role, then like morph into BA. But I'm looking at it that the time I'm here studying, how can I gain the experience, even if I'm going to be volunteering? And how can I, have a mentor that I can work with that can advise me now, so that when I'm done, it's just easy for me to glide into the role. That's my question.
Okay. So essentially, okay. Can I make some assumptions, because I just want to clarify what your question is. So I will assume that you're doing your master's, right? Or right?
Yeah, masters.
Great, because when you said that you're about to finish up, I wasn't sure whether it's secondary or first degree. All right, so pretty much straightforward. See, there's no rule of thumb to this, really. See me, there's no rule of thumb to it. As you're studying right now, okay, as you're a student right now, what you can do is that you want to be able to get yourself involved in what the business analysts do. Like I said before, getting yourself having that industry exposure. I wasn't a business. I was working in a warehouse when I was registered as an IBA member, and I was actually following them and asking questions in their webinar. And I went through my mentorship program as an under IBA UK. Even when I wasn't business analyst, I haven't done anything. I haven't gone through personal study. I haven't done any certification at all. So exploring those opportunities depends on your environment and where you are, right? It's something that you can do. Then also, there are some key things that you're already doing today that the business analyst does, really, right? Let's say, for example, being able to communicate well, being able to explain yourself well, being able to ask the right questions, for example, or having that curiosity, for example, is key. It's very key. There are loads and loads of things that you can learn on the job. You don't have to be fully matured as a business analyst before you move into the role. Then in terms of on the job experience, and I know it's tough really to get on the job experience. I also experienced something like that. It's also very, 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 very so what I could advise is that if you get yourself a mentor, right, that you can always touch base with your mentor, you might be able to get a work-based experience. Like for example, where I work currently, we've got 2 apprentice BAs that are going through their BCS certification. And then they are kind of shadowing us, and then they are learning out of us, and they have that privilege of on-the-job training. And then from there, they're going to transition smoothly into business analysis. That's very rare to find, right? But as it is, you could get yourself a mentor, right? And touching base with the mentor, you could, keep yourself very close to those self-study books that I spoke to you about. You can touch base with your mentor just to pick his brain, his or her brain on what this concept means, or maybe kind of you're curious, you want him to show you, or how to show you what this looks like, or maybe kind of especially that kind of builds your understanding of some things that may look like big to you, right? And then you start working on your CV. I need to say this very clearly, write it down. You don't need the certifications to get a job as a BA. Did that sink? Yes. You don't need your certifications to get your job as a BA, right? So I did my quite right, but then I wouldn't say that I'm not advising you not to go for your certifications, but that's not a prerequisite. What's prerequisite is having that experience. Not just that experience, but being able to, right, during interview, you are able to talk about an experience as a BA. You're able to explain yourself as what a BA should know based on your understanding, and you're based to relate that to the question they're asking. You don't need the certification to get a job, right? So I hope that kind of helps to kind of build like a background of, of that. It's kind of closed in terms of this case. I know it's kind of closed, but then exploring that tidbits of industry engagement, mentorship to expose you to what business analyst does, and then that could actually help you to build some concept on kind of context around that. I hope I know I said a lot of things, but I hope I was able to touch exactly what you mean. I'm so sorry. I know that this was supposed to end by 7 o'clock. I didn't know that we were going to even use up the time. So yeah, apologies for that. So, but is there any other further question at this point? Any question at this point? So, in absence of no questions, I'd like to say thank you for your time.
Sorry. Just have to ask this one. I don't know if it's a stupid question. As regards to the slide where you brought up the analysis, the benefits, it's not benefit analysis. I think I can't remember that table that has business change. I think it's about four it was divided into four spaces where you need to fill in. I've forgotten the name you called.
Does it have to do with benefits, right?
Yeah, it has to do with benefits.
Okay, it should be a dependency map. Yep. Yes.
Sorry
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask are you the ones that are you as the BA, will you be the one to like, like brainstorm to pick out from what they have told you to pick out the benefits, or you have to ask them directly what is the benefit
That's a
of
very
this and all of that?
that's a very key question. So as a business analyst, thank you for the question. As a business analyst, you are not the owner of the benefit. As a business analyst, you facilitate the identification of benefits. As a business analyst, you identify the right stakeholders that are involved, that are relevant to that particular context or the project you're working. You want to be able to engage them using your techniques like interviews or focus group or benefit sessions, benefit identification, specific benefit identification session, to ask the right set of questions. So your job is to really understand the kind of questions you need to ask that will help to elicit the information that should answer, is this really a benefit? Or is this just a deliverable or like a feature? Right? Okay, if we say that this is a benefit, right? Benefit essentially means what's the value, what's the outcome? What's the baseline? What are the baseline figures? What's the supporting data that actually shows us that this is how we are performing today in regards to these benefits? You want to be able to identify your baseline figure. Then as a business analyst, you also want to be able to ask those right questions. Like, okay, now that we've understood how we are working now and the current metrics, existing data set, right? What is our target going to look like? So you are working across those business stakeholders for you to be able to elicit what those benefits are, and then you are documenting that benefit. So you are making sense of the benefits, right? They are saying a lot of things. Some of them say a lot of things that are not even benefits, but you are making sense of that as a business analyst. You are challenging them constructively to say, right, okay, I think you were talking about, a specific feature. You're not really talking about a value, an outcome that can be measured over the period, right? It's not a benefit. Can we look at it from this direction, right? And all that. So you are making sense of that benefit really, and then you are documenting that benefit. Then you are playing it back to them, as a way of that benefit plan or dependency map that I showed you, and also a benefit plan as well too. You're playing it back to them just to confirm that yes, this is what we agreed on. These are the targets. These are what we are going to be hoping to realize over the 5-year period, and we are validating it. That means we are stamping on it, and we are taking it as adopting it as a working document. Yeah. So that's your role as a business analyst. You are not the owners of the benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Right.
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Okay. Yeah, fire down, please. Sir, I didn't catch your name, but yeah.
Yeah, Michael.
Michael.
I'm actually on the road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the easiest question so far. It's been a very impactful and informative session, and I thank you for that. I'm making out time and all that. So, it's helping me grasp a lot of things. So my simple question is, when next are we having this session with you? So some of us that are not very well prepared can come very well prepared with all our questions and all that. So I don't know. I just want a simple question. It doesn't need thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. So the organizers of this is Ladder Back Down, has been run by Ladder Back Down. So I think she is the one that is really in the very position to determine that the pace of how things are done and all that. So she's in the position to be able to respond to that question. But I think to a large extent, Ladder Back Down is doing a very good job. I've attended a couple of webinars as well myself, personally as an attendee. And then yeah, I think that loads and loads of things are being covered. So maybe whoever is representing Ladder Back Down is in a position to actually present that question and how things are going to be done. Thank you.
All right. Please, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Thank you very much for everything that you told us again. I want to ask, for the people outside the UK,
okay,
is there how do we get into the mentorship program?
Okay, so
And what's the requirement?
So when I did my mentorship program, a couple of years ago with iiba.uk. So you could go on the website, you go Google up iiba UK. They will require you to make some registrations. So you're going to register as a member to start with. And that mentorship runs for once in a year. And then so every year it runs for a period of 6 months, once in a year. So after making your registration, I think you're going to pay some amount of money to register. And then if you're interested in the mentorship program, I think you're also going to pay a specific amount of money as well to register for that mentorship program. So that's what I did. And if you do that, then they're going to get back to you on when they assign a mentorship to you. There's going to be like a very last session, or maybe like an introduction session where everybody comes together, mentors and mentees, and they come together, and then after that, they break you guys down to your different mentors and all that. So yeah, so go through their website iiba.uk and then do your registrations there. Good thing about registration there as a member as well too is that you're also going to be exposed to free webinars where you can get to also hear from different consultants in the industry who talk about different topics, specific topics, for example, about business analysis. So something that you might want to also consider. Thank you. Yeah, I think you can do that from Nigeria. I can't remember any kind of limitation in terms of where you are from. I can't remember seeing any limitation when I was registering. Yeah, right. Any other questions? So in the absence of no other questions, I want to thank you for your time. And I think on this last slide, yeah, if you got any further questions, right, so you can just write me to my email, as well as you can also come on, join me on LinkedIn. There are loads and loads of Ikenna Okoli on LinkedIn, but I think if you see me with my picture on the folder, you're able to know that that's me, Ikenna Okoli, change delivery transformation. Yeah, you can always add that. Lastly, I'm going to take AY's question before I hand back over to you.
Hi, good evening, Ikenna. This is Motrayo. Not a question per se. I just wanted to say a word of appreciation. This session has been quite insightful. Even things that you'd, as a working bee, you probably won't think of. So it has been quite insightful. So thank you, boss.
I didn't know that you are the one here. So why are you using the name AY Motrayo? All right, Motrayo is one of my colleagues, guys. So she's of course full-fledged BA. And thanks for coming around, Motrayo. And then, in the absence of nobody else, so I hand back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say a massive thank you to our host tonight, because I remember during the week you were suggesting that the content that you have, that you thought it would, that this workshop would last for just an hour.
Yeah.
But I said to you that I'm absolutely sure that from my brief engagement with you, that I was absolutely sure that people would have a lot of questions for you. And I'm really grateful to you for volunteering your time and for the presentation itself. I mean, because you simply just came up out of the blue. I wasn't even aware of your name on the platform, but you simply said, okay, could I do this? And you have really delivered, you've over-delivered. So really appreciate you, really grateful to you. And I'll make sure that once once I download this recording, I'll put it on the YouTube channel. And then of course, I'll share it with everyone who registered and within the WhatsApp community as well. So thank you so much, really appreciate you. Thank you all for attending. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Sure. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.